Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking something incredibly familiar to literally all of us, a physical everyday vending machine, and we are going to strip it all the way down to its raw hardware code. I mean, have you ever actually wondered how these machines tick on the inside? How a hunk of metal and plastic knows exactly what you've paid? Well, by the end of our time today, you won't just understand it, you'll see exactly how engineers build that logic totally from scratch. Let's get right into it.
So, here is our roadmap. 1. The everyday vending machine. 2. Mapping the logic. 3. Speaking to the hardware. And 4. Proving the design actually works.
Okay, let's dive straight into the core puzzle. How exactly does a machine with literally no brain remember that you paid? Think about it for a second. You drop in a coin, you wait a beat, you drop in another coin. How does this inanimate box string those sequential events together over time without a human memory to keep track? It's a genuinely fascinating problem of state and memory that engineers have to solve using pure logic.
Just to ground us real quick, a vending machine is simply an automated machine that dispenses items to consumers after payment is inserted. Fun fact though, the very first modern vending machines popped up in England back in the early 1880s, and they actually dispensed postcards. Obviously today they process highly complex, multi-step payments. But for our design, we're going to stick to an absolute classic, a simple newspaper vending machine.
All right, part 1, the everyday vending machine.
First things first, we have to set the boundaries of our system. Our newspaper costs exactly 15 rupees. Our machine is only built to accept two types of coins, a 5 rupee coin and a 10 rupee coin. But, and here's the critical quirk, the special rule that makes our engineering job both easier and honestly a bit ruthless for the customer. Our machine cannot return change. If someone inserts two 10 rupee coins totaling 20, the machine will absolutely dispense the newspaper, but it keeps that extra 5 rupees. So, the valid winning combinations are 3 5s, a 10 then a 5 then a 10, or 2 10s. That is the physical reality we have to program.
Moving on to part 2, mapping the logic. We need to give our machine a way to remember those coins using what engineers call states.
Think of these states as the machine's short-term memory. It always kicks off at S0, 0 rupees. Let's say you insert a 10 rupee coin. The logic follows the path for that input, jumping down to state S10. It now remembers you have 10 rupees in the bank. Now drop in a 5 rupee coin. The machine follows that new input, and boom, you are in state S15. You've hit the magic number. The machine knows it's time to give you your newspaper, and then it immediately loops right back to S0 to wait for the next customer. Every possible combination of coins is mapped out perfectly right here.
But here's the catch. Hardware doesn't understand a visual map of bubbles. We have to translate those concepts into a rigid mathematical table. In a state table like this, our inputs are defined mathematically. So x equals 0 means no coin, x equals 1 means a 5 rupee coin, and x equals 2 means a 10 rupee coin. Check out that bottom row. If the present state is S15, notice how the output for every single column becomes a 1. In the world of digital logic, an output of 1 translates directly to power the dispenser motor. It's a beautifully simple, deterministic table that perfectly captures human transactions.
Part 3, speaking to the hardware. To actually translate all this for the hardware, we parameterize our states. Since a microchip definitely doesn't understand rupees, we assign 2-bit binary codes to each of our memory states. S0 becomes 00, S5 becomes 01, S10 becomes 10, and our goal state, S15, becomes 11. By parameterizing these states, we're essentially giving the logic gates a precise mathematical vocabulary they can work with.
With our vocabulary locked in, we can write the behavioral code. The Verilog program operates on a repeating 4-step loop that's triggered continuously by a digital clock. First up, it checks its present state, basically asking, where am I right now? Second, it evaluates the coin input. Did a 5 or a 10 just drop in? Third, using a series of if-else statements, it assigns the next state. Like, if I have 5 and I get another 5, my next state is 10. Finally, step 4, if that next state hits 15, it triggers the output dispenser, which we represent with the variable y. It's essentially a highly organized, incredibly fast series of if this, then that commands.
Part 4, proving the design works.
Okay, so to actually build our confidence that this works, we rely on a simulation waveform. It kind of looks like a heart monitor, right? But it's actually tracking our variables over time to prove our success. If you follow the input line, our x variable, you can watch it change as simulated coins are dropped in. Now, look closely at the dispenser output y.
Notice how it stays completely flat at 0 until the exact millisecond our inputs add up to 15 or more. Right there, Y spikes high into a 1. That spike is the glorious moment our digital newspaper is released. The logic holds up perfectly.
But of course, a simulation on a screen isn't a physical machine. Through a process called synthesis, the software translates our code into a literal wiring diagram, an RTL schematic. What started as this abstract idea about a newspaper machine has now been mapped out into a highly complex network of physical logic gates and flip-flops. These tiny little boxes and wires, that is exactly what will be etched into the silicon of an actual microchip.
When you look at these two concepts side by side, you really grasp the entire engineering pipeline. On one hand, we have the behavioral proof of the logic, the waveform ensuring our math works flawlessly over time. On the other hand, we had the physical blueprint of the hardware, the literal gates that will execute that math in the real world. Together, they represent the complete journey from a human problem to a hardware solution. It almost feels like magic, but it is just pure structured engineering.
So, we've successfully built a digital vending machine from scratch. But I want to leave you with this provocative thought. What other invisible state machines are secretly governing your everyday life? Think about it. When you punch numbers into a microwave, when you press a button to call an elevator, or when you set your washing machine to spin, these aren't just dumb appliances. They are state machines. They're constantly running through binary logic, waiting for your inputs and transitioning from state to state just to serve you. Honestly, now that you know how they think, you'll probably never look at a mundane piece of technology the exact same way again. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the logic behind the world around you.